How I got rid of my imposter syndrome in the space of 30 minutes. If you tell yourself you're not qualified enough, then you never actually find out what you're capable of. You just live in the comfort of this false myth of your own potential, and you never get what you want because you don't expect it. After I started my label, I had imposter syndrome for years when it came to the words fashion designer, due to the fact that I was never formally trained. I'm not a tailor, I'm not a seamstress or a seamster. I didn't go to uni, although I was offered a place on the degree at Bath University. I've always achieved everything I have creatively just through sheer volition and through instinct. So I can't read a note of music, but I've actually made 3 albums. As clothing is just fabric arranged and stitched in place, music is just noise arranged and performed. So although I have great respect for a tailor or a concert pianist who studies and refines their art for years, I've always come at things from a much more instinctive route, which I find actually aids my creativity. Also, coming from a working class background and working in working class areas, there is always that fear of imposter syndrome, because we're taught that we should never get above our station, we shouldn't expect more. Somebody becomes incredibly wealthy or successful, people are viewed with suspicion, as if hard work didn't get them where they got. They must have been lucky, or they must have done something underhand or illegal. It doesn't matter that they might have worked 14 hours a day for the past 10 years, they're still viewed suspiciously. So I came across a video of Alan Watts, the philosopher, and I'm sure many of you have listened to some of his talks or his monologues. His work is always being cut into short memes on TikTok and Instagram, words of wisdom, words of deep meaning. And I came across a video of his that was about clothing and the importance of clothing. It had been uploaded onto YouTube from some grainy old VHS tape, I think probably back in the late 70s, early 80s. So he was dressed in a suit initially, and he was talking about how the suit was a British invention and had obviously been adopted all around the world in different countries as business attire, and how ridiculously uncomfortable it is for actually working in. So the business suit was originally derived from military uniforms. Fun fact, do you know why business suits have buttons on the cuffs? They were actually put on there to stop the servicemen from wiping their noses on their sleeves. And the buttons used to go all the way up the arm. How bizarre. So in ancient China, only women wore trousers and men always wore sarong style skirts. And this was because the first cuts of trousers were more suitable for the female form. So the female form being more shapely on the hips, trousers were seen as very castrative to men, obviously because of between their legs. Men were encouraged to wear something more comfortable because of basically sitting on the floor during meals or meditation or whatever else. So then he goes on to talk about the kimono and how men and women in Japan would wear the kimono due to its comfort and its ease. They would have large pockets within the sleeves of the kimono to carry wallets, cigarettes, cash, money. The form of the kimono would be totally unrestricting. So the kimonos, the sarongs, skirts, that kind of thing from China and Japan would be made from rectangles of fabric. Now that was when my ears pricked up and I started to pay attention, because I make all of my clothes from rectangles and squares of fabric. They're not cut to the human form, they're made from the original shape of the fabric. Because when I first started to make garments, I was looking at dresses, shirts, skirts, and I was thinking, well, how difficult could it be? It's a front and a back, and then everything else is up to interpretation. The way that it's draped, the way that it ties, the way that it falls on the body. That's really why I had the confidence to start making garments. Which brings in the kind of instinct and the volition. Some might call it delusion. So cloth is naturally rectangle because of the way that it's woven. It's woven on the warp and the weft, like that. So it's perpendicular. So it naturally forms a rectangle in lines of weave, and then becomes a rectangle which is then rolled onto the roll. So fabric doesn't naturally form to the body, it has to be cut. Hence tailors, seamstresses. The Japanese and the Chinese were actually honouring the natural form of the fabric, and when draped on the body, the fabric honours the natural shape of the physique, falls and drapes naturally around the shapes, the curves, the angles of the human body. And if you stand with a piece of fabric and drape it, it gives you a very natural dignity. The natural dignity was the essential principle of Japanese clothing. Boom! This really dispelled a lot of my feelings about imposter syndrome when people call me a fashion designer. Because I wasn't trained, because I never learned how to cut a pattern, if somebody gave me a shirt, a dress shirt, or a cocktail dress or something, and then gave me some fabric and said, make one of those, I wouldn't know where to start. But give me a piece of fabric, a sewing machine, and the human form, and I'll make you something that has never existed on this planet before. And for years, I'd undermined my own talent and my own skills because I didn't have that formal training. And then this video was like a revelation to me, because I'm literally using cloth the way that the ancient Japanese and Chinese clothing makers used it, in a beautiful tradition, honouring the fabric and the way that the fabric naturally drapes and folds on the body. So this kind of imposter syndrome that I've always felt, it really hindered me in ways of knowing the worth of my work, both as artistically and creatively, and not being able to accept compliments, and also in my pricing, because me thinking I wasn't properly making clothes was really affecting me in the way that I price items to sell, or when I take on a commission, because I don't make clothes in a traditional westernized way. I play with the fabric, I play with the form, I play with the drapery. I have an intense interest and knowledge in weights of fabrics, how that fabric will drape on the body, what I'll be able to achieve drapery and fold wise with the fabric, how different prints will affect different designs, and how different prints will sit on the human form. All these skills and ideas and talents that I had, I was completely taken for granted, being quite dismissive of, purely because I wasn't trained. So it's been a huge revelation to me, and it's really made sense for me, as well as you, the viewer, why I do what I do, how I've developed my kind of stable of different designs, just through sheer trial and error, trying this, trying that, trying a different shoulder, trying a different sleeve, trying a different neckline, the way that it's brought in with the belting, how many belts go on it, where the belts should be tied, all those ideas and all those developments that I've had in my clothing label over the years. So I hope you've enjoyed that, because it really made me think about my own self-worth as an artist, and also as somebody who is making things commercially for people to buy. So it's really been a huge wake-up call for me about not putting myself down, not diminishing my own talents. So instead of saying, well, I make the shapes I make because I can't do that, or I'm not trained to do that, I'm now, well, I make the shapes that I make because it's from a traditional instinctive way of working, and I am pushing it further and further and further along, constantly innovate with my own designs. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please comment if you've got any thoughts about this video, and I'll see you all soon.